What's going on, everybody? Can everybody hear me okay? Hopefully so. We got a pretty big show coming up tonight. We're going to be pushing the envelope. Definitely, probably going to be a show that a lot of people are not going to forget. We're going to touch on things that most channels try to step around. We decided tonight that we're going to dive right in that hole. Um, we think that there's a lot of things that's being, I'm just going to straight out say it. I think there's a lot of things that's been deceived to many people, and people are being pretty much brainwashed to believe that certain sins and aspects are okay. And we were warned in Revelations that this time would come, that someday sin would be regarded as the good and good as bad. And there will be few people that'll be the chosen ones, the army of God, and they will bring the truth forward. And it's been on my heart to do this show. It's been on Kirk's heart to do this show. And I think that, we're not here to bash anybody. We're not here to attack anybody. We're here to talk about plain and simple history, truth, opinions, uh, hypotheses, and just to talk freely like we've always done, except for we're going to talk about subjects that nobody else wants to talk about. Um, like I said, it's going to be an interesting show. Kirk has a lot of information on, I'm just going to say it, on vampires tonight. And the last show that we tried to do about vampires, we had a lot of interruptions. We had what we thought was technical difficulties. I'm going to bring Kirk in because he's going to be able to elaborate with me on this part, what I'm talking about. Hey, Kirk.
Good evening.
I told everybody we're going definitely down the rabbit hole
Can
tonight.
you
We're
hear
going to
me?
talk. Yes. Can you hear us?
I hear nothing.
Okay. I can hear you, but
Give me just a minute.
okay. While Kurt gets his audio issues figured out again, we are going to go down a rabbit hole of sort, if you will, of things that just a lot of people have danced around, and I don't blame them. Uh, channels have been blackballed over talking about this stuff, uh, but I feel it's important that we discuss these things. Are you able to hear us now, Kurt?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you good. We can hear you good and clear.
Excellent.
I was just telling everybody the last time that we had this conversation about vampires that we had a lot of what we thought was technical difficulties and voices behind the scenes. Now, we believe that we know what that was from now, and
Yeah,
you know, I think that we have remedied that situation. Um, I
I
think
do
it was
too.
possibly possibly sabotage within, and it's sad, but hey, it happened. We caught it. Um, I told everybody we're going down a pretty deep rabbit hole tonight. Now we will have to be somewhat cautious with our wording and what we say, but I plan on going deeper than most people have went. Uh, I told them that you have a lot of information on the vampires and stuff, and I'm just going to get down. Well, before we do that, I'm just going to tell everybody we did do what y'all asked. I thought about it, got a lot of emails from everybody to start the Patreon. Patreon has been growing. People are joining the Patreon. I've had a lot of people ask me, Mike, what is the difference between Patreon and your membership? Just real quick, the membership will get you uh, little emojis you can use in the lives, things like that. The Patreon is going to be more of the photos that we're going to share, stuff like that. You'll have access to those in the Patreon. You can discuss it in the Patreon. You can have personal discussions about those pictures. And later on, me and Kirk's even talked about maybe even doing a first video drop to the Patreon and then to the subscribers. There will be nothing in the Patreon that the regular subscribers will not have access to. It just may be different in how you access it. For instance, photographs. If you're not in the Patreon, you may have to access the photographs by going back to the video and finding it, to where people in the Patreon can just go into the Patreon and look at the photographs. Patreon members may get to see a video sooner than regular subscribers, but it will all be released. And the Patreon also helps support the channel with investigations and so forth, equipment and things of that matter. So we want to thank everybody that's joined that. Uh, Brandy, the co-host Brandy, she should be back with us after the first. We're looking for her to be back on the show. She's had some things that she's had to take care of, and if I was her, I'd probably be eating a dog. But she'll be back on after the first, and we'll be glad to have her back. Also, another thing I was going to talk about, and I'm going to let Kurt talk a little more about this. These shows that we're bringing up tonight and Saturday have brought us personal threats, threats against us. As
Correct.
far a lot of threats, not just one or two threats. We have been threatened not to do tonight's show and not to do Saturday night show. Now, I'm not going to say that all the threats were hostile. There was some very pleasant conversations that we had with people that have different beliefs than we do. I and Kurt both encourage spirited debate. We can all debate. We can get along. Just because we do not agree doesn't mean we have to be enemies. And there
Correct.
has been some really nice people's reached out, and they've just said, "Hey, I disagree," and we've debated and chat. And I look at their side, they've looked at my side. Now, 90% of those have been threats, and some of those have been so bad that, well, Kirk's had a visitor at his house, and I'll let Kirk talk about the threats and why he may be threatened a little more than me with the person he knows, if he wants to get into that or whatever. I'll let him discuss that.
Well, quite frankly, tonight's show on vampires, not that people knew this, but Monday morning I had somebody standing out in my tree line at 2:30 a.m. when I went to go to work. Was not a good situation at the present time. I will not tell you how it was rectified, but it was rectified. We have received text messages. I have gotten a call. Don't know really how they got my number, but my number is on Facebook page, so that's probably how. And quite frankly, and of course, we don't like to swear on this channel, but we were told that I am doing things that will and are pissing the vampire community off. With that being said, they are very angry about it. Threats. Do you know we're an army? Yeah. Well, you know what? There's lots of armies out there. Don't forget there's the army of God.
Yeah, and I like to look at our channel and the people that's on our channel as part of that army, because they've stood up for me whenever I've needed them, and there's people on here I
So
know that will go to war for us. I know they will.
that's right.
They have offered that to us, and we appreciate that. But I'm going to call out a name of one of the main ones that did threaten us. I'm not going to use her last name just for legality purposes, but I am going to use a first name, Serena. She's been one of our biggest people to threaten us. She says that she is the pure blood vampire, and she arrived in Pennsylvania a few days ago.
I'm in Pennsylvania. Come see me.
And for some reason, her and another gentleman, which we're not sure his name right now, but we're looking into it, they have threatened Kurt pretty vigorously. Said that they have said they're in his state, and one of them had a surgery. Did they not, Kurt?
Yes.
He comes from the Republic of Georgia,
Yes.
and he has stainless steel teeth implanted by a surgeon. Uh,
Correct.
he, he probably should have seen Janice before he done that, because I would say he's probably not all there. But hey, we've already made him mad. Why not? You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. And one of the funny things is the comment that was made by the pure blood. I'm sorry, by the other one was concerning the circle, which I'm assuming that they're talking about the circle down by you. But, that vampire safe house that we found here, within 5 miles of it, there was a circle there also. And quite frankly, it's the same circle. So the fact that they never found that means they're not real good at what they supposedly do.
it's a good thing they're not playing hide and go seek, huh?
Yep.
We're getting this. John has asked a lot about Cal in our lives. He wants to know how he's doing. I guess I want to address that. I guess a little more clearly. Uh, Cal is no longer associated or with abnormal investigations for personal and business reasons. I I spoke with my staff, and it was a long time coming. And when it came down to it, I made the initial decision that he should no longer be part of our program for certain reasons that I'm not going to discuss. That's between him and us what happened. But yeah, he's no longer affiliated. We wish him well in his adventures and whatever he may pursue from this channel. But as far as association to this channel, he's no longer associated. And the last I knew, he was doing very well and enjoying life.
Sure, we wish him well. There's no animosity whatsoever. Things just, it was time to move on for both his part and our part. So, we wish him well and his continued success.
Another thing I would like to thank Vic Kunda for having us on his show the other day. We dropped the video that we done together today at 3 o'clock. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend going and seeing it, and also going over and checking his channel out. I'm sure you already know who he is. He's a big time uh, YouTuber, but we was on his show. Kirk, I believe, done another recording,
Correct.
and he's asked me to do a recording. So we're going to be working with Vic a little bit coming up, guys, and really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be interesting. I guess we got a few people getting in here. We'll get a few more. Is there anything else that we was wanting to go over with everybody? Do we want to talk about our Halloween special? Do we want to start?
Yes.
Because I know you
Yeah,
said we do want to promote that.
very much so. There will be a professional vampire hunter on our Halloween special. This man has been doing it for approximately 30 years. One of his associates is actually, I believe he said, 72nd generation vampire hunter, and goes back his lineage before Jesus Christ walked this earth. They have been hunting vampires. So this is not a new phenomenon. These creatures are real. They've stayed in the shadows because their numbers were not necessarily the greatest. Their numbers are growing by the year. You will eventually, they will be more mainstream. There will be a lot more disappearing people. As I said, that one threat said that I'm pissing off the community. Well, I really don't care. The truth is the truth, whether they like it or not. That's it.
And
Now,
they're mad. They're mad.
yes, I was just, what actually caused me to be late into this a couple minutes was the fact that I was actually talking with the vampire hunter that will be on our Halloween special. And he actually made the suggestion that we reach out to this pureblood vampire, Serena, and make her an offer to come on the show and tell her side.
Yeah, she's very upset with us. I'm just going to say what she said. She threatened to drink Kirk dry. So,
Well, she can. Not quite the same way, though.
yeah, they're aggravated at us, and that's okay. They're not going to stop us. What we're going to do tonight, they're not going to stop Saturday night. We've caused such a ripple that the vampires, and since we're doing a show Saturday night over the witches, they've all been texting us and threatening us. So, it is what it is. September, I'm going in the woods, and they're not going to keep me from being in the woods in September. They're telling me, that I may be a victim, but
I'm doing one even better than that, Mike. Tomorrow evening, I'm going down to the Circle here and spend some time.
yeah, they're not going to stop us. We have an agenda, and that's what we're going to do. So getting into the story, so we can just go ahead and start making everybody mad all at once. Um, they've had a lady, a scholar named Catherine Morris. She was an investigator. She said that the vampires and all the witnesses and the testimonies that were presented in the 17th century were actually taken as being creditable because they had eyewitness testimonies. And these testimonies came from military doctors, clergymen, psychologists, doctors, and morticians.
Yeah.
Morticians, on several occasions, had bodies in their exam rooms that were prepared to be embalmed for the next day come up either missing, knocking on the doors of the doctors waiting to do the exams, or just getting up and walking out.
Yep.
Surgeons also that were preparing the bodies and embalmers that were over the bodies had numerous times been murdered by their throats being ripped out either by the person's teeth or hands or asphyxiated by strangulation. These were by people that have been ruled dead. Miss Catherine, in her synopsis, in her final report, stated, and I'm going to say the word, guys, so here we go. These people that some would call creatures are, in fact, flesh and blood. There is a disease called typhia that some of these people suffered, but not all. The reason that they suffer and want this blood so bad is, in my opinion, for the adrenochrome that causes them to feel youthful again and slows the aging of the body. Children have a stronger adrenochrome than adults, which would cause these people with typhia to not have to consume as much blood as often, which I believe is the reason for the so-called million kids that went missing in the 17th century and they could not find them. I believe that they were used as blood banks. If you will notice, she says, and this is her, guys, this is not me, I'm only reading a statement. If you will notice that certain people in Hollywood will seem older at times and younger at times. Another doctor made the claim that is because they are consuming blood, which is, we all know, an abomination to God. They are seeking immortality through our young. That is why a lot of the newborn babies are being tested. That's why the stuff that they were rubbing on their face on the Oprah Winfrey Show came from little boys' circumcisions. This goes deeper than most people think, and these people will die. And no, it does not take a silver bullet. But do
Nope.
not but do not forget this. They will hunt you, they will consume your blood, and they will kill you. That was her report.
Well, the report is pretty well accurate. Okay. Yes, they are flesh and blood. So, yes, they can die. No, they do not necessarily die as easy as, say, you do, Mike, or somebody else out there does. It takes more for them to die, but yeah, they die. Now, where do they go when they die? I'm 100% sure they go straight to hell.
They're a very well. She even made said that they're very sinister in their ways. That
Yep.
they have no remorse.
Nope.
Their fixation is on
They're,
blood.
they're very cold and calculating, but yet they're also very, how do I want to put this? Uh, they're very electrifying. They can talk to a crowd and they can hold the attention of a crowd. Much like your presidential candidates, your Congress candidates, you always have some that they speak, everybody fixates on what they're saying, whether it means anything or not. And Henry White, is he still duct taped to the tree? That will let go right now. Anyways, these things are real. Okay. They've been around thousands of years, going down the evolutionary trail. And quite frankly, I believe in creation 100%. God created us in his own image. But sometime around 60,000 years ago, there was something that happened with humans. Somehow humans developed a specialized intestinal system. and got the taste for blood. And in the 60,000 years since this happened, they have refined many, many things to get better at what they do, their bodies to get better at what they do. The vampire is an apex predator. There is no doubt about it. Vampire is as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than a dog man or a Sasquatch, for the simple fact a vampire has the strength, has the speed, but it also has the brain power of a normal human. It can think, it has logic. Dogman, we don't know if it does, and if it does, we don't know to what degree it does. Sasquatch, same way. Yeah, it can think, maybe it has some logic, but we don't know to what extent it does.
And a person asked, do they suffer from bloodborne diseases? And yes, she did include that in there, and they do die from that. They're not immune from it. But the bad thing is, they do and are very bad at spreading those diseases too. Even though they do die from those, they they spread them. I mean, if somebody has hepatitis C and they bite you, I mean, you're probably not going to survive the initial attack anyway. And if you
No, you
did,
won't.
you're probably going to succumb to a disease. You know, uh, there was a man, and he deemed himself a vampire. He did drink blood. He was imprisoned for being a vampire. He was given the chance to either say he was not a vampire, or he was given the chance to go before a firing squad. He went before the firing squad before he had consumed 25 prisoners, two prison guards that he had drank their blood within his sentence. And when they put him in front of the firing squad, the prisoner stood there and laughed as they aimed at him. And the warden said that whenever they shot him, he fell the same, died as fast, and the same as any other person put before the firing squad. So that gave peace to the people of the town to know that they were, in fact, they die. And but it kind of caused a bad thing to start happening, because whenever people found out they died, then people started suspecting people of vampirism, and they started taking the law into their own hands around the 17th century. And they think that maybe a lot of innocent people were killed because maybe they had, autism or, mental retardation or something. And people started associating that with, oh my God, he's a vampire too. And they started killing a lot of people. And of course, it says that worked out very well for the vampires because it gave them even more to hide behind. They started developing laws to protect the mentally handicapped and people, that may have, different personalities. Some people, were more shy than others. And it allowed them to hide in the darkness and behind the doctors. They said, okay, if y'all are going to do this, we're going to punish you. It's going to be murder. So we're going to start hanging people. And then they said vampirism rose to 200%. That's crazy high. Um, Me and Kirk were talking about right now in America and other countries. People are running up right now to women, men, whoever, brothers, sisters, with their little siblings, and they are ripping kids away from their mothers. They're not waiting for your kids to be lost away from you, for you to turn your head. They are running right up to you, ripping your children from you, and taking your children. Because the market right now for children is so high that they're willing to risk anything to grab your child. And I want to stress to everybody right now, watch your children. They are gold. That is your baby. That is your life. And I'm telling you right now, they ain't going to take my child. Uh, but they're not like how it used to be. How it used to, they waited for the kids to be away from you, or they waited for the kids to be lost in Walmart. They're coming just blatantly right up to people and just ripping these kids out of their
Yeah.
hands.
They have no qualms with that. No
And
qualms whatsoever.
and it's like they almost feel like these people owe them their children. It's like, that's mine, give it to me. And just watch your children. You know, that's the one thing that bothers me most is children getting hurt. They're the most innocent things in the
Correct.
world. And the bad thing is, it doesn't ever matter who wins. The children always lose.
Yep, there is no winner there.
No. Uh, Now, this is a part that I thought was really interesting, and this is probably going to cause some more people to get mad. Vampires predate witches. Vampire hunters predate the witch trials of Salem. Werewolf trials, and even priests said that whenever they had a werewolf trial, the thing that they saw in common with the witches, and I hate to bring them up tonight because Saturday's more about witches, but there's kind of a relationship here with the witches and the vampires and the werewolves, is whenever they would perform an exorcism on them, a demon would leave that body. And when they were studied for 365 days after the exorcism, 100% of the patients went back to normal life.
Interesting. As I said, these vampires have been around for about 60,000 years. Witches have probably been around that long or longer. The werewolf, as you call it, don't know. We know the werewolf has been around at least 5,000 years, though. Your Salem witch trials didn't start till 1740, something like that. You had other witch trials that actually happened in the Middle Ages over in Europe, but still, you're talking a maximum, 1,000 years ago. And these things, like I say, they've been around 50 or 60,000 years.
It's
Yes, demonic, Jason.
even the some now this is some scholars said in the Bible. Scholars believe that, and I may pronounce this wrong, but it's Alukah. Aluka uh, was the meaning of a blood-lusting monster in the Bible. Um, uh, they think that Bram Stoker named Count Dracula after Vlad the Impaler. Vlad Dracula was born to Transylvania, Romania. He ruled Romania off and on from 1456 to 1462, but had knowledge that scholars said he should have never have had.
Very correct, because he lived a whole lot longer. He had been around a lot longer than anybody gave him credit for. And I could get into some things, but because it borders on magic and I really don't want to lose people on here, I
That's
just got to be very careful what I say. I can't say all that I want. Uh,
that's Saturday night.
yeah, but it's there is magic involved with these, if you want to call it magic. And it is black magic. There's no doubt about it. And as the Bible says, all magic is black magic. There is no good magic.
And that's what got me in trouble today. Um, had a lot of witches get mad at me today, and I think it was 3 or 4 warlocks because they said, "Oh no, Mike, we're not the bad ones. We do white magic. We're the good ones." And I said, "Don't try to deceive me. I already know your words, and you're already defeated." And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "White magic is just as evil as black magic." And they said, "What do you mean?" And I said, have you ever read Leviticus in the Bible?" Our conversation stopped immediately. God summed it up in Leviticus and a few other places in the Bible that there is no good magic. Nothing comes of good magic, fortune telling, necromancy, contacting the dead, um, out of body experiences. All of that stuff is demons. And Jesus says by using that, it will make you become unclean. And not just them, but anyone that seeks them out will become unclean. To take yourself away from that. And that's why I tell so many people be careful of what you support and who you support. Because if you're supporting somebody's idea that is bad in nature, then you're associating yourself with that because you're supporting that.
Correct.
Let's see here. What's this here? I caught something.
They are God's fools playing the roles in the play called the Bible, like Judas, etc. Not sure what they mean by
I'm
that.
not sure. Could you elaborate a little more? Uh, you know, Vlad was a pretty sick individual. he
Vlad was cold, but Vlad was calculating. Some of what he did was actually for the shock and awe factor. Um, let's face it, he was trying to get rid of, we'll call them as they were, the Muslims. And the best way to do it is, other than kill them, is you're killing them in the most horrific way that you can. Let some of them watch it, then send them back to their own people and let them know what they're in for.
while he was having dinner, many times he would bring the enemies into his table and have them laid on the table where he was actually eating, and he would dip his bread into their blood and eat it in front of
Right.
them as they died. And I'll let you tell them about how they were impaled.
How they were what?
How he would impale them
Oh,
outside.
it's easy. Just nice straight wood stake, sharpened on one end, and he would literally have them set upon the point of the stake, and their own body weight would force the stake down through them. Of course, not quickly, and I really can't imagine a worse way to go than that.
Right. I agree with KN HBSM. He cleared it up.
That is correct. It is supposed to be to the letter of the law.
Right. And Randy, Bloody Marys is just tomato juice, unless you're
Yeah.
drinking something else that we don't know about. Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
I hope not. Um, Vlad was another thing they talked about him was he had superhuman strength. They said there was a guy broke in through his chambers one time while he was eating an enemy, and he said to his guards, "Stand down." And his guards told him, they said, "Vlad, you're not even wearing your armor." He said, "I already have my armor on." And they said he leaped to the table, grabbed this soldier in his full run and full battle armor, grabbed him by the throat, grabbed a candle holder, decapitated him, bit his tongue out, and spit it across the table.
Yeah.
Now that is...
As I
that's
said,
bad.
they are very strong. They are very fast. They are intelligent to a point. Although after some of them, hearing what some of them had to say, it really makes me question some of them, their intelligence.
And they talked about a lot of them.
Grip, yeah, you're right. They do blend in with everybody else.
Right. Like what Tracy said, that's a bad dude. Definitely.
That's a bad dude. Yes, it is. And he was a bad day for anybody that met him.
There was a girl that lived in Rhode Island. Her name was Mercy Brown. Have you ever heard of her?
Mike, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
No audio again.
Okay. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Hang on.
If you can hear me, I heard a whole lot of buzzing before it cut you off.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yes, I can hear you. I can't, you're froze up, but I can hear you. We have audio.
Okay. I don't know what's going on with this.
I see you now. Uh-oh, looks like he got kicked. But yeah, Vlad, guys, he was a really, really dark person. He done a lot of bad things, and he loved to torture. That was one of his things, was torturing. He believed in torturing his enemies, and he would even bleed his enemies out, and then later drink their blood with his dinner. Uh, a lot of the warriors, they were afraid of him because nobody wants to be drank with your enemy's dinner, and I think that to the enemies, knowing somebody's going to cut you and drink your blood, that's pretty disturbing.
Yep.
That would not be a fun day. There was a girl named Mercy that lived in Rhode Island, and I thought this was really interesting. Uh, George lost many of his family members, including Mercy, which was his daughter. They blamed it on tuberculosis. The rumor was that Mercy did not die of tuberculosis, but a stake in her heart. Also, her family was drained of their blood. They said that her family died, and then Mercy ended up dying last. And everybody said she was the last one to die from tuberculosis, which later, whenever the town went out, let me make sure I get this right. When the town went out, her body was exhumed and did not display any decay. Whenever she had died, her body was not rotting like the rest of her family or other people do. So her body was then, they then drove a stake through her heart, and then her body was burned. Uh, a lot of people tried to blame it on, it was cold outside, that's why she didn't rot. Then the townspeople accused her of being a vampire because when they burned the body, they said she screamed. They dug her up, cut her heart out, they burned it, and then fed her ashes to her brother, which he then died shortly after. Is that not messed up?
That is, that's strange. I don't believe, you know, I don't know. I mean, there are other ways to kill them and to make sure that they stay dead. So for them to go through all that, I don't know. But regardless, with that being said, was she a vampire? Yeah, possibly, possibly not. But, you know, the town didn't have to go through everything they did. I'm sure, though, they went through it just to make sure that she wasn't coming back.
Right. Well, they said there was a disease called porphyria, which is a person asked how to spell that earlier. It's Porphyria, and it would cause people to not be able to go out into the night or go out into the daylight. So they would go out into the night. They found that animal blood would help treat the disease, and then later on, they found out human blood worked better. So they started hunting humans at night. So they believe that was one of the main causes that caused the vampire hunting for blood, because people started finding out, hey, there's power in the blood. If you got
Yeah.
people, if it's making these other people that are sick better, then maybe we all need that.
Oh, sorry. Well, as I said, they can live off any mammal's blood. If it's warm blooded, they can live off it. They much prefer human blood. And quite frankly, normally they do not use for every meal a human. They will space them out just to make it so that it is not so prevalent. You know, they kind of keep it on the down low. Let's face it, if you had the number of people come up missing in a city double or triple in 1 year, I mean, that would send up big red flags. And gee, that's actually what's happened to a couple cities here in the U.S. in the last 2 years. There has been a tremendous uptick in people come up missing, including the homeless that come up missing. Now, unfortunately, when a homeless comes up missing, the police do nothing about it. Hell, it's lucky if it's even reported to the police. Why? Because they're homeless. Nobody really cares. So that's the perfect target for a vampire.
Right. And I think one of our moderators might be a vampire. I think Brandy might be a vampire. Sometimes she sucks the life out of me. Sometimes she worries me. I couldn't help it. I have a call in that I think you'll really enjoy, and I thought I would share her story that she shared with me. Uh, she is in Mexico. Uh, Her Hispanic brother and his friend tried to come to America illegally, and this is a story that she shared. She said Hispanic families have started to be killed around the border fence, some drained of blood, some half eaten, some just tore apart and thrown around. One friend with another friend and my brother were trying to cross. They were chased by a bipedal dogman. Border Patrol happened to arrive and save them before they were attacked by the dogman. They told the Border Patrol and they laughed at them. They said, "Oh, y'all believe in the boogeyman?" So she said they were taken into custody and the agent took them to a holding cell. Where they was held in this holding cell, they were then moved to a different holding cell, which were not bars, but concrete rooms with drains in the bottom. They thought that they were fixing to be sent in for processing. But oh, could they not be so wrong? Across from them was another Hispanic male that had been caught that seemed to be a little fragile. He was an older man and not well nourished. It wasn't long till an agent came in dressed in all black. Very nice haircut, they said. Very well built. He came to their jail cell and he smiled at my brother and his two friends. He had very shiny teeth. They were steel, not normal. He turned around, walked into the other cell, and devoured the old man. They listened to him growl like a freakish animal as he ripped and tore the man apart, feasting on his blood, eating and biting him all over his body. Mike, it wasn't just the neck like you see in the movies. This guy was like a mad, ravaged dog, biting all over this man. This man, it seemed like, screamed forever, but he said it only had to be minutes, as the whole cell was covered in blood. When the man walked out of the cell, he was covered in blood. He wiped the blood from his chin and threw it on my brother and his friends. He said, "I'll be back for you." The next day, they were taken out into the yard to where they were allowed to do exercise, and my brother and his friends ran for it. They figured, what did they have to lose? Luckily, my brother made it back, and the two friends were caught and taken back into custody. What happened to them, we do not know, and their families have not heard anything from America. But my brother said that he will stay in Mexico. It is the safest place to be.
Now, I can tell you this, that would be very unlike a vampire, shall we say, a normal vampire. Number one, they do not really waste a drop of blood. They will bite the neck enough to crush the arteries in it, pierce the arteries, and they will absolutely suck the blood out. Sometimes, if you have two of them feeding on the same individual, one will bite the leg at the femoral artery, or sometimes there's other places that they'll bite. But the one key thing is when a body is found that a vampire is feasted on, you don't find blood. There's not blood left. There's not blood around on the ground. There's not evidence of a crime other than the body.
We had a guy ask, he said, "How do they get steel teeth?" He was wondering how that happens.
I'm sure somebody had them implanted. They found a dentist somewhere that was willing to either implant them or they just may be stainless steel caps over the actual teeth.
Have you heard of Richard Chase? He was called the Vampire of Sacramento.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm writing that name down.
Did you guys realize that there was a old TV show? If I remember, it was probably early 70s, called Night Stalker. That was actually the first few cases first few episodes of it were actually based off true cases that were never solved.
So whenever that guy went into that jail cell and attacked that guy, the older guy that they were watching, that wasn't of feeding, was it? That was just a torture attack.
And there again, I really don't think that a vampire would do that. I don't know what the guy was, but that vampire's not going to waste that blood.
They said that the screaming was so terrible. It's just like the guy was just clawing and biting this guy all over, just taking chunks out of him. That's like a yeah, right here. I mean, this I think sums it up. Demon possessed,
Demon possessed.
but it was like a maybe it's going like what the Bible says, not to consume blood and flesh. Maybe we know that the Nephilim done that to go against God. They started doing that with animals and stuff and eating human flesh. It became cannibals, and so maybe that's a part of their thing is to just I don't know how just abomination, evil, torture. I mean, I can only imagine what her brother and friends went through. Uh, it just, I would hate to. I mean, I don't even know how I would react in a situation like that. You have a. Looks like you have a somebody. A
Yeah,
female.
it looks like I've got a fan.
Yeah,
Yes, I was on Terror in the Woods, and a couple others, but that's regardless.
yeah. There you go, Janice. Thank you for that information. Uh, I've heard they'll also do that in the Republic of Georgia. That's a pretty common thing to get done.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not just the Republic of Georgia; it's also done in South America. Uh, for some reason, it's done over in Germany also. There's a fairly large amount of countries that you actually can find dentists in that don't have a problem doing that.
You know, I want to tell this person. She said she'd be watching tonight, so I'm sure she's in the chat because I told her I would bring this story up. I hope that your brother does hear from his friends. I'm sorry that they did not make it out with him. That really does bother me. It makes me sad. And I will pray for their safety. And she asked me if I thought that they would hear from him, and she wanted my honest opinion. And my honest opinion is,
No,
well, they're probably lost in the system. Uh, the same fate probably awaited them that happened to that man by the same guy
right.
or others like him. You know, this is a tricky question here because this is kind of a legal advice question. Uh, the only answer I can give you is follow your local state laws for defending yourself.
Correct. How do you defend yourself? that's that's a rough one. The best thing I could say is don't put yourself in a position, but you have no control over it because you don't know who is and who is not a vampire. I would say the best thing is stay home unless you absolutely have to do something different. Your Bible is the best protection that you can have.
I would think that teeth that were manufactured, he tortured that guy. That was what makes adrenochrome best. So it wasn't a real vampire. Um, Real vampires, and Kirk, you correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I was reading and studying this week, I didn't have a whole lot of time to study on it. I focused a lot more time on the women that ride the brooms. But from what I read, uh, they don't actually they're not born with these incisors. They are humans with a psychological I wouldn't call it a disability. Kind of like
No,
they're very
totally
intelligent.
incorrect, Mike.
How do they work?
They are born with the incisors. The
So they do.
incisors are not hollow, they are just longer, they are pointy. They literally will rip into the neck. They're pointy enough to puncture right into the artery. I mean, they have them from a very young age.
So they're kind of like a born abomination.
Yep.
Uh, Another thing that I was reading, I thought was really important, was they said that back in London, and this is pretty early in the 18th century up to the 19th century, they killed a bunch of them by taking cattle blood and putting antifreeze in it and leaving it out. And the next morning, they found dead people all over their town, which is kind of gruesome. I mean, it's kind of a bad way to, they do that with animals. But I was reading about antifreeze, and they said antifreeze has a sweet taste to it that attracts animals
Correct.
to it.
Correct. Now, antifreeze actually turns into, once it gets in your bloodstream and goes to your brain, it turns into alcohol, except not the type of alcohol that we drink. As your body processes it, it turns into basically a wood alcohol, causing first blindness and then death.
Okay, somebody's wanting to get a unknown in the forest too. Mike and Kurt, please answer my question. Is a lot of people on here, but I hope you answered. Okay, I must have missed it. It's scrolling really fast. If you can resend it, we will look for it. Uh, the chat moves so fast sometimes it's hard to get everybody. A lot of times at the
Right? Not,
end of the show we'll try, but
yeah, I actually can only see what is posted, what Mike puts up. He's
uh-huh.
the one that actually has to screen it.
Yeah, I get to watch everybody's comments, try to talk and stay engaged and remember what I'm talking about.
Right? And that gets to be quite the job.
There was a little girl. I found another story. This was kind of close to home. Kentucky had a man that came off of the railway, was trying to get into her window, had blood all over his hands. He had blood all over her window, trying to get in her window at night. Of course, she was smart. She ran and got her dad, and she told her dad that somebody was trying to break in her window. By the time the dad got to her bedroom, this guy is halfway in this little girl's bedroom window, and the guy, only weapon he had was a 22 pistol, and it was a cowboy style. Shot him one time in the head, killed him, lights out. They called the police. The police came. The dude did have his teeth, his eye teeth, were they said sawed off or whatever to make pointed, and they found a dead body in the train car that he was riding in that he had attacked and ripped the throat from. So he was after that little girl, no doubt.
Yep.
Uh, it almost makes you afraid to have your children in a room by themselves.
True.
I mean, if your house isn't well secured, you know, 70% of the time, an abduction happens by somebody that you either know or related to.
Yep.
And if they know, uh, sorry, I was reading this one, and if they know your house layout and your routine, they're going to try to get your child. Um, you don't want your child, to fall victim to something like that for sure.
True.
Um, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to get Brandy on a hunt.
I agree totally.
I don't know if she could handle it. It might be a little too much for her.
Well, like I said, tomorrow evening I'm going out to the circle here,
I'm definitely
and
going.
I'll be I'll be looking around, see what I can see. Don't expect to see anybody there, but wouldn't be surprised to have a dog man come through, or even possibly a Sasquatch come through.
Right. Love Cat says, I love how the American Indians are slept together in a teepee. Children were always with the parents. Yeah, because they knew. They
Correct.
knew they knew that Bigfoot was taking their children and taking their women and eating them. Uh,
Yep.
I think what a lot of people don't think about is when these creatures take you, they're not going to take you out in the woods and hit you over the head with something and then eat you. They may just start tearing pieces off of you right there, just eating you alive. I mean,
Exactly.
they if you ever watch a cat kill a mouse, they don't care if that mouse squeals. They'll sit there and let that mouse squeal, and sometimes they'll even cuddle up to it and let the mouse run under them and lay there and everything, and slap them around a little bit, let them cuddle them again. Next thing you know, chomp, chomp, chomp. I mean,
Yep.
it's it can be really bad, and it's probably not going to be fast. Um, I've always joked around and said they'll probably start at your feet. And oh, I didn't say this. This guy says this. There are Freemasons that are able to change into vampires or werewolves at the top of the 33rd level, per Rabbi Schnobel.
Snowball.
Moving on.
That's ah, yeah. I'll let that go for this minute.
They said, "How do we know who are vampires and what traits do you look for?"
Well, pretty much the same traits that you find in anybody to a point, but most of your vampires are very charismatic. When they do have to engage with people, they're very charismatic. Uh, and of course, the teeth. But for the majority of the vampires, they know how to hold their mouth, how to keep from showing their teeth. And you could be standing right beside one, never know it.
They, you know, I'm just going to say it: witches and vampires. A vampire is going to drink your blood.
Yep.
Witches are also blood consumers. A lot of people don't know that. But witches take it a step further. They love to hear people scream and they love to eat children. They don't just drink their blood, they consume the children. Um, I'm going to tell you all a little story, and it's probably going to get me. You need to watch Hollywood and what they're showing your kids because there's a cartoon out there, and I got to thinking about this the other day. Monsters Inc. A demon comes out of a
Yep.
child's closet, scares the child. It captures the scream. The scream is what runs the underworld through the closet door. You all know what that scream is. It's adrenochrome. They just can't show that happening in a cartoon. But remember in the cartoon, the more they scared the kid, the better the scream they got, the more power they got from it. I'm going to leave that right there.
Now, I will say this, and it's not just Hollywood that you find that in, where people will maybe today look 30 years old, maybe in a month they'll look 70 years old, and all of a sudden a day later they might look back to 30 years old.
A lot of people are talking about Jamie Foxx right now coming out. They're saying it's not Jamie Foxx. They're saying it's another man.
Hansel and Gretel story. You are very correct.
They asked how I get this information. I have a lot of connections through my old job I used to do. And a lot of people reach out to me. And I call a lot of people, just like Kirk does. You call people that pull strings and have access to things that you don't. And
yeah,
they want the truth to be told.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because of their position, they cannot tell it.
What if you have a vampire-looking teeth, but they are not pointed at the ends?
Oh no, then you probably aren't a vampire.
Yeah, I think if you are one, you're going to know.
Yeah, I would say so.
You know, if you're sitting at the table and everybody's eating and your steak's uncooked, you might want to get checked. You know, I mean, you know, me and Kirk was talking about this today. Those little kids that were taken, Godsey, McNeilis, Dennis Martin, they assume their livers and organs are gone. Those hold the most blood and the most protein, the most nutrition, and the rest of them is kind of like thrown away.
Now, was Godsey a vampire? Was he killed by a vampire? No. Godsey was killed by a dog man, 100% guaranteed.
Right.
But there again, the blood, the internal organs, you know, the attack on him was concentrated around the midsection.
But again, you know, you think about it, you know, that type of damage in that area is not going to be a fast death. It's going to be a very painful, slow death. The Vietnamese, you know, used to take soldiers and pull their intestines out in front of them because it was a slow, painful death.
Yeah.
So these creatures that are doing that, they're not only consuming you, like Brenda Hamilton also, and you know the others. They're making sure that you suffer, and I think that the suffering part is not just the pain. I think it's also having to look at the creature, at what it really is, and having to say what I'm seeing right now is real, and it's actually killing me. I mean, that is a terrible, terrible thought. And Christian Ward,
I would like to, that's what I was going to say. I would like to address that.
Yeah,
what's so funny about the Freemasons? It's not funny, haha. It's funny, ironic, because I am working on what will be a show here on this channel that will be very deep, going down that rabbit hole. And yeah, the Freemasons will be, shall we say, a prominent part of that show.
Right. You know, a lot of people say, why are you laughing at that, laughing at that? You're not laughing at it because it's funny. You're laughing at it because it's ironic or it's something that you're working on
Right.
or it's I don't know. It even when I worked, you know, in the capacity that I
It's a
worked,
control mechanism.
it's normal.
Yeah.
It's a release. It's therapeutic. Uh, Janice would be a better person to answer that question. Um, Laughing can mean a lot of different things. It can mean that person's fixing to rip your head off. That person is about to cry. That person is afraid. That person is, angry. It can mean it can be even an emotional release. So I don't think that was a
Great,
bear.
babe. Yeah, I don't either. I question that. Uh, just doesn't seem right to me.
I looked at the footprint on that, and it didn't have any claw marks coming off of it. And a bear doesn't retract its claws.
Yes, I am.
Janice, right here, Janice answered the question.
It's healthy. Yes, I agree, Janice.
Um, you know, that this guy in the chat right here, though, I do want him to contact us. Uh, Griff Shanks, send me an email. I really want to talk to you. You said a few things in the chat that really caught my attention. I think
Hell,
me.
I got him on speed dial.
Oh, you know who it is then?
Oh yeah,
Okay, so yeah, he said a lot of things that
yeah,
I've been catching, out of the corner of my eye about. He's had to crawl to get away from Dogman that about got him, and
yeah. He's actually one of them that I told you that we were going to bring on one of the shows in the near
okay.
future.
And like what Tracy says, there's a lot of bear attacks, and bear attacks are up right now, and I hate it because if you read about it, what's the first thing the game warden says? Oh, it's very rare that a bear would ever attack you, but we're closing off 10 square miles because this one just ate a family of 8
Right.
out here.
Exactly.
I mean, if it's very rare, then why are we seeing so many? Kurt, do you carry a 45 with you when you go to the circle? That's weird. Somebody wants to know what you're carrying.
I will actually be going unarmed.
Oh, wow.
I will have my knife with me and nothing more.
And Soul Soother says better to laugh than cry. That is true.
I agree.
I can't say this one, but I can post it. That is deeper than I'm allowed to go.
Quite true.
Ah, man, there's just Google the history is what I did. Of course, I didn't have to Google a whole lot because I had them all messaging me and threatening me and telling me to read this book, that book. So,
Mm-hmm. And I'm fortunate enough that I know several vampire hunters, and I get very good information out of them.
there's your guy right there, Count Saint Germain. Are all in New Orleans. I live in New Orleans and have been the Vampire Cafe. It's very interesting in there.
Did you know that Count Saint Germain was thought to have originated in 1705? But yet there are pictures and portraits of Saint Germain all the way up to 1944. 1944 was photographs taken in New York City.
Ahmad says, I've been to the Ursuline Covenant plenty of times walking through the French quarters and also Count St. Germain's mansion. The energy there is something else.
Imagine that.
You all have the armor of God on, Kurt. Don't forget to sing. Can't touch this. You know, there was a child that was telling his mom and dad. It's another story that was called in, and I always tell people, listen to your kids.
Right.
That the neighbor was a monster, and the mom and dad they weren't believing it. They did not believe it, and he told his mom and dad. He said, "That's what killed my dog," and they didn't ever believe it. They thought the little boy was making up his own little stories. One day they found the little boy. He was hanging on the clothesline, shall we say, in pieces.
Yeah.
The next door neighbor later admitted to doing it. And the reason the next door neighbor said he done it is because he said the little boy was possessed and the little boy was watching him at night.
Was he possessed? Nah. Was the guy that did it possessed? Probably. Brandy, you are 100% correct. Always believe your kids.
Brad said to tell you hi.
Hey, Brad. How you doing?
You know, there was another guy talked about the border, and he said that this is happening a lot at the border. In fact, a lot of the people that are crossing the border are being chased down by human animals, is what they call them, human animals, and just being ripped apart. They're saying the screams and everything, but the border patrol, they act like they don't care. It's like it's normal to them.
The Border Patrol does not put any stock in the reports that they get because, let's face it, as long as it happens on Mexico's side, they don't care. And if it happens on the United States side, well, then they've got to write it up somehow, but they get creative in their writing.
Armor Podcast, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
At least we got somebody that likes us and not wanting to eat us.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to say a name, but I am going to put this out there just because. And I can't say a name, but me and Kurt know a guy, put it like that we're both acquainted with, that said every time he looked at us, he felt the need to bite us.
Yep.
And what bothers me the most about this is he talked to us for a long time, didn't he, Kurt?
Yes, he did.
We all talked about going out and having a beer together.
Yeah. And quite frankly, what bothers me the most is the same general description of him is the same general description of the person that was out here Monday morning.
Go ahead and tell him about what he said about looking in your window, Kurt.
Oh, yeah. He evidently, at some point in time, had been here the day before because I had went to Sam's Club and picked up an order and had left some stuff sitting on the table.
Well, he was able to describe the fact that I had the dog inside the clock. He described that the food from Sam's Club. So, I mean, it was a pretty good guarantee that he actually was here.
And he also said that he wasn't in his normal body, correct?
Right, correct.
That he had partially transformed.
Yeah, Brad's saying he wants to talk about, I believe he wants to talk about the skull that was found in Washington. And when he says Washington, that's Washington County, Pennsylvania. That was the decapitated skull that I told you about. And since then, they've found several others. They all have pretty much one thing in common. They were decapitated. They were never identified. And nobody was ever allowed to see them. Once they were found, basically, they were hands off, and only certain officers were even able to be around them.
Oh, Kirk, I didn't plan on getting into this one tonight, but it was.
God. I do not do remote viewing. Remote viewing is not of God. If I really wanted remote viewing done, I have a relative that was one of the founding members of the CIA's remote viewing project. So, yeah, if I was going to have something to do with remote viewing, it would probably be him that I would go to. But it goes against everything the Bible stands for. So I'll leave that one alone.
I concur. I don't like, again, the only way that somebody can remote view anything and have answers from remote viewing is because they're being told that by a familiar spirit, aka a demon. And there's none of that good. They lie, they kill, steal, destroy, lie, deceive, and they're going to tell you whatever you want to hear.
Unknowns in the forest, too. Your question is, are there real vampires out there grabbing kids or humans pretending to be vampires? That's a good question. I would assume that there are. But quite frankly, a victim is a victim. You know, when somebody is killed, we don't necessarily say, okay, well, this kid played a vampire, so he doesn't count. You know, we'll just ignore his death. No, everybody counts the same. We're all equal in God's eyes. So, yeah, I'm sure people are being killed, maybe for pretending to be a vampire. I don't know. But
Well,
you can rest assured they are being killed.
Remember, they was having that trouble in the 17th century, that when people started freaking out saying, oh my God, he's a vampire. And he wasn't. He was just somebody that liked to wear dark clothes and didn't talk to people. And next thing you know, you got 5 guys holding you down, driving a stake in your heart. I mean, people, they freak out really easy.
Hi, Dana.
Yeah. Vampires probably have a field day during Halloween. Oh, I'm sure.
Well, let's face it, that time they can be out in public doing what they normally do best, and nobody thinks anything about it. But on the other hand, really, no. I would say no, because they probably are in a set routine. They have their routine that works. That is why they've been able to keep from being caught, being exposed all these years. So why alter something if it's working?
I'm glad this came up. I'm going to set up for this one. I've been wanting to
Yep, I saw that. I was
whistleblower
waiting
testified
for that.
to Congress yesterday. He is a former pilot. He under oath
Great.
stated there are indeed aliens, and we have one dead from a crash site. So then vampires could also be legit. Okay, I'm gonna throw something out there for you. This is my belief. This is my opinion. If you want to make the public believe in aliens, which is one of the last things that they're going to try to do, in my opinion, to cover up the rapture, you take a plant and you have him say he's a whistleblower and you deceive the whole world. I'm telling you, there is a deep, dark force at work. They are going to do whatever they can to push this alien agenda. If you look at the news right now, if you look at prime time news, you look at kid shows, you look at even regular movies right now, they're pushing this alien agenda. There's another site out right now, and I'm not going to say their name. They're actually talking about Sasquatch driving spaceships, and I'm not making this up. People believe this, and it's scary. It is scary to me. People believe this, and they're in there, and they're saying, "You're so right. I bet they are. You're so right. I bet they are." And and they're talking about, I lived on the moon for 12 years, and then I was sent to Mars and worked in a labor camp. No, you was not. I'm sorry.
And you forgot, he said, but when I came back to Earth, I had only been gone 2 days.
Yeah. And look, don't be deceived. That's all I can say. This is in my opinion, this is the end. Me and Kirk talked about this. What you're seeing right
We
now,
are in the end times.
it's playing out. He's
Yep.
doing everything he can to deceive you right now. He is out for as many bodies as he can get. And he will work through anyone that he can work through. And he's going to come to you and he's going to pervert everything that God said. And he's going to say, "Oh, I'm not the bad one. I use the good magic." There is no good magic.
Yeah.
There is none. It's all the same. It's like a rattlesnake coming up to you saying, "Oh, I'm your friend. Just take me down off this cold mountain so I don't freeze to death." And then
Right.
you carry the rattlesnake down, and you get down there where it's warm. Next thing you know, bam, he bites you, and you say, "Man, why did you bite me? You said you wasn't going to kill me. I saved your life." Rattlesnake looks at you and says, "Well, you knew what I was when you picked me up."
Exactly.
Uh, God says very plainly, you cannot serve two masters. Don't
You can't.
let people trick you into believing this alien. I want to say it one time on here, shit, because that's what it is. They're not real. They are demons deceiving you. Think about it. Oh God, we're gonna get in trouble over this one. The elites, they want you. The okay, let's take it back a little bit further. Even the devil knows there's a Jesus. He knows Jesus. The devil knows and believes in Jesus.
Right.
So the devil knows that the rapture, the coming of Christ, however you believe, is going to happen. So now he's got to come up with a twisted way to say it wasn't a rapture. There is no God. Don't follow God. Don't go to God. You know what it was? It was the aliens that came and took everybody. That's where they went.
Yeah.
And then they're going to
Yeah.
put these holograms, Operation Bluebeam, into the sky. They will probably use our own technology, shoot and blow stuff up, and all of a sudden, we better bow down to the aliens because they have come and took over and they're going to save the world. But all you got to do is take this mark on your forehead and everything's going to be fine. I want to stop at that. But
that's a good thing.
there is no aliens. It is deception. They are here to kill, steal, destroy, deceive you, to cause you to lose. They talk about, I have this white light magic, I have this dark light magic, I don't know, I have this infrared magic, whatever you want to call it. But you know what? That magic doesn't mean nothing to a Christian. Because when you have the armor of God on you and you're protected by the hedge of God, it can't do nothing to you. But you know what you're doing? You're destroying yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're allowing him to take you over and believe in all the fake things. Because I'm telling you, the only thing that the devil can offer you in this life is things that are either dying, rusting, or rotting away. What Jesus gives you is for eternity.
Yeah.
Don't let these people deceive you, guys. Careful what you follow, careful what you believe, and careful with what you let in here. Because words are powerful and they can manifest. And I'll let Kurt talk. I have to stop because I can go all day on that.
Yeah, and as much as I agree with you a whole lot on this, right now is not the time and place to go much farther than what you went. The show is supposed to be about the vampires tonight. Unfortunately, I was actually expecting a couple of them to come in the show and make the comments. I have not seen that yet. I very much wanted to invite either one of them that made threats to be on a show to explain their position. Maybe they can convince me that we have them all wrong, that they're doing a service for God by killing people.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but hell, maybe they can. I'm open to giving them the opportunity to at least try to convince me.
Right. And
you are correct, Margaret.
The guy that we're talking about that wanted to bite us. That is not normal human behavior.
No. Can I speculate on the percent of how many vampires there are right now? No. It is a low number percentage-wise, but even a low number percentage is a great number. I've heard from several of my friends that they put the number of vampires in the U.S. between 40 and 50,000.
A lot of times whenever you go, and I think this will probably ring home to a lot of people, when you go out in the woods and you hunt these things and you investigate these things, you cannot be Rambo about it. You have to be smart about it. You got to know when to leave. Kind of like the song, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And it's not just because you're going to get hurt. It's because they can drain you spiritually. If you get into stuff really deep, you don't take a break and go back to your roots, it can get dark. I know a guy that started out doing this. He worked for me. He was an officer that worked under me and started doing this, and he got really good at it. He was called from all over. He went everywhere doing this. He was very good at what he done. He doesn't believe in God now. He left God and denounced God. Now in his house, he has things moving around. He has a Ouija board.
Imagine that.
His child has got gravely sick now 3 times. The doctors don't know what's wrong with his child. He's almost lost his child 3 times, and they don't know why. Um, he went so deep into this that he forgot where he came from. And when you go out around these things, and you, like me and Kirk said, you got to follow your gut. If you feel it's time to leave, you should leave.
Well, you know, unfortunately, I'm a little different. I go out there, I put myself out as bait. I don't care. I'm going to get to the bottom. I'm going to get to the truth. I'm going to expose the truth. If it ends up costing me my life, well, so be it. It's a small price to pay if that brings the truth out to everybody.
Jenna
But
said
the other thing is,
Jenna said we should mention that the guy that wanted to bite us was also bitten himself.
yeah.
I'm going to let you elaborate on that, Kurt. I'll let you have that one.
Well, and this is supposedly was bitten himself. He supposedly was bitten on an investigation. He supposedly was starting to turn into a werewolf. He wanted to bite Mike and I both. It's unclear whether it was to turn us into werewolves also, like he believed he was, or whether it was the bite was like he wanted to rip out our throat for some reason. Don't know, don't really care. My thoughts on it is, if you want to have at it, go for it. Just remember, there's two sides to every story, and they'll come up here. You might get something you don't want.
He also allegedly was having more hair growth on his body, he said, than normal. And
Correct.
was waking up in areas he didn't know how he got to.
Out in the woods.
Knew an awful lot about Kirk and Kirk's personal life. Said he told us many times that he was a monster. Now, I never heard that. I honestly did not ever hear that. Maybe I didn't hear him say it, but I never heard him say that. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah, on several occasions he did. I won't say it was numerous times. It was probably 3 times. He said he's a monster.
And
well, once more, that's okay. Because it doesn't matter how big and bad somebody is, how much of a monster they are, there's always one out there that's bigger, that's badder, and that's more of a monster than you.
are you sure the guy that wanted to bite you wasn't wanting to give you a hickey?
Well, Gina, I don't know.
There was a lady in here said there was a man at Walmart attacked her and tried to bite her, and she was able to fend him off.
Really?
Yeah. See, and there's another one,
You've seen the same guy months later coming out of the woods in daylight.
I'm not a psychologist. I couldn't say.
I can partially answer that question. Maybe not to the best answer, but Yeah, he's got to be nuts to want to do what he does.
Um, JD Smith said, Kurt, I like your brother. You're not Rambo. You need more than a knife. We need you to come home, brother. I'm going to put this one
JD,
up.
I've done it. I've done it before.
What will sleeping with a vampire do to a normal person? Probably nothing. Just you slept with him. Unless he
Yeah.
kills you. And here's your one.
Private account.
Yeah. Definitely need him, but anything would be crazy to take on Kirk. Uh,
Like I said, if I end up giving my life to prove this stuff, it's a small price to pay for humanity.
I don't think he told anybody else he wanted to bite him, honestly. I think it was, and this is just guessing, but I think it was personal.
Yep, it was personal.
I think there was a different meaning behind I want to bite. I think it was a different uh, aspect. I think it was a threat.
Yep.
That's how I took it anyway.
But you know what? I don't take threats. You want to threaten me, you better back it up. And I'm going to tell you, bring it, don't sing it.
And then they said, do you think maybe he is just seeking attention?
No. No, not at all.
I think he meant it.
Yes.
If he acts on it, I don't know that he would act on it, but I think he meant it at the time. Uh, I, that's just I don't know what we done that would warrant that because honestly, we didn't do anything. It's hard to talk about it without going into.
Right.
Let's talk about this though. The Bohemian Club. You wasn't far enough down the hole yet, Kurt. Come on.
I'll let you go for it. You started off. Oh, my
There's a
God.
club. There's a club, and it has two places. Sacramento. No, yeah, Sacramento and San Francisco.
Sacramento.
And San Francisco. Now this is
Yeah.
an elite, expensive club, where you can go and watch them burn something at the stake. A lot of them say that it's a dummy. A lot of them say that it was a true woman. One guy did infiltrate and record it, and it was a live person that was sacrificed. The elite of the elites are said to be there.
Yep.
It's very, very, very guarded. Even the waterways around it.
Yep.
Guess what they like to drink? Children's blood. That's the rumor. I'm just quoting
JD, yeah, there's more than one.
I'm just quoting what I've read. Um, but a lot of bad things happen there. They have their ceremonies, a lot of paganistic religion, a lot of worshiping idols. Um, they even, I've heard, make deals with the devil there. Uh,
Imagine that.
It's like what White Wolf said. You know, a lot of people are getting kicked out of chat right now that I said that. They're coming in saying they got kicked.
Gee, I knew that was going to happen.
Um, Alex Jones, yeah, I believe so, Tracy. He went in and secretly filmed it.
Yes, it was Tracy.
Here you go, Kirk. You're gonna like this one coming up. But
Okay.
a lot of highfalutin people went there. Um, it's
Saw Nixon. I assume that she is talking about Richard Nixon. That would have to have been a long while ago.
Lisa says she heard a woman's voice when I mentioned the Grove.
You know, I hate to say this, Mike, but 4 times now I've heard in the background a woman's voice. Don't know where it came from. And
I'm sure.
the fact that I do have the earbuds in pretty well cancels out everything else. So
And then I'll let you talk a little bit about the Bohemian Club, what you know, and then I got one more club I want to talk about tonight.
what I know about the Bohemian Club is, yes, it is very exclusive. It is by invitation only that you can even join it. Are they sacrificing real people? Yeah. And here again, this is what I was able to find out, and I don't know if it's factual or not, but to the best of the ability of the man that helped me find out about it, he said that you sign a contract when you join the club, and you sign it in blood. So, who do you think that contract's with?
Right.
You know, it just, there were pictures that were floated around that actually showed a former first lady there drinking blood from a child in I want to say it was a tub, not really a bathtub, but kind of along the lines of a bathtub, but it was not in a bathroom. But there was what appeared to be a 6 or 7 year old child in there they had slaughtered. And that certain first lady was actually dipping a champagne glass in the blood and drinking it. Those photos circulated around on the internet for just a short time before it was said they were photoshopped. But yet, when I let some of the people I know look at them, dig into them, they said there was no layering to the photos, so there was no deception detected.
They say there's lots of homeless people on the river there.
Yep.
Pure evil.
Yes, very much so.
And while we're talking about it, let's just throw in the Red Shoe Club.
The Sapphire Club. Yeah. Well, allegedly, it's not that much different from the Bohemian Club. Much the same goes on. It is different people, and in some instances, the same people are members of both. Ex-Satanist John Todd talks about the Bohemian Grove. Yeah. There's absolutely nothing good that happens in either of these two places. I'm gonna throw this out there. It's probably 70 to 80% of those entertainment people that are the ones burned at the stake. Probably 70% of them are children or teenagers. You know, it's just sad.
And it doesn't bother them one bit to do it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Seems like it's just it's like a, I don't know, like
it's just another day.
Yeah, they expect it, and it's sad what they do. A little werewolf came in here. She knows right when to come in here and bark.
Yep.
But I think we dove pretty far down tonight. I think we can start wrapping the show up. Unless you
like I said, I'm disappointed that Serena was not in here. I was looking forward to at least asking her to come on. If not, well, the other one that made that threat, I was looking for him, and unfortunately, he wasn't here either. So, don't know what it is.
Or they showed up and didn't talk.
Yeah, that's possible.
Remain in the shadows, as they like to say they
do. Yep. There was a tremendous amount more that I would have liked to said. Some of it I am withholding until we have the vampire hunter on, because he'll be able to elaborate a lot more. And then some of it I would love to tell right now, but you get into a liability issues, and it's like it's better to just be left unsaid for now.
And let's tell them a little bit about what they have to look forward to Saturday night. You don't want to miss Saturday night, I'm telling you. You don't want to miss Saturday night. Let me
Saturday night will be about witches. It will be about all types of witches. Whether people know it or not, a skinwalker is actually a witch. Spearfinger was a witch. There are no good witches as per the Bible. A witch is a witch is a witch. They're all considered by God to be wrong. Now, let me say, I am trying to get an ex-witch to come on the show. Why do I say ex? Maybe she's still a witch, but she has accepted Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior, rebuked the devil, and does not practice witchcraft anymore. So I think that Jeannie would probably be a good guest. Unfortunately, she just hasn't answered me back yet. We'll see.
Saturday night is going to go a lot deeper than we probably went tonight.
Yes, it will.
We're going to talk about some special places that are very important to some people, what they offered for that information.
Yep.
They will give anything pretty much, won't they, Kurt?
Yes, they will.
We're going to talk about the deception that they try to put on everybody, that they try to change their magic from the bad to the light.
Yeah.
There's a lot of deception. And I think
Long and short of it, Mike, is when you open the Bible says all magic is bad. Period.
There is no good except for God.
Right.
And
to the letter of the law.
I think the best way to put it tonight is just be careful who you listen to, who you support. Pray about it, and don't be deceived, and don't support things that we know is wrong. I hope to see each and every one of you back here on Saturday night. We'll go deep down this rabbit hole. We're going to touch on things I haven't touched, and then probably our next live is going to be another good one that we're working on, and hopefully between now and then we're going to have some boots on the ground footage for you. I'm going really deep to a place, so
I definitely will have footage from the circle tomorrow night.
And a lot of people don't know, on one of my outings, guys, wasn't long ago, I did not bring this up. Kurt knows about it. I was injured in the woods.
Yep.
Took me a long time to get out of the woods. I hurt my ankle really bad, and I was tracking feral people and ended up rolling my ankle pretty bad. And I did make it out, but I was late getting out. But I was in contact with Kirk. He knew what was going on, where I was at. And it can be dangerous out there. And I plan on going back, and I plan on getting some footage. And I got a new little camera I'm wanting to try out. It's a little pocket-held camera. So we're going to see what we can get, and hopefully have some good videos and another good live. But until then, I'd like to thank all y'all for showing up, supporting us. All you guys that's joined our new Patreon that are supporting us there. Let me know what you think of the pictures we're putting over there. Kirk's going to be sending pictures to put on there.
Yep,
we got
definitely.
We got awesome pictures on there right now, I think. I think we really do. And y'all are going to enjoy going over looking at it. It's just $5. We left it the same as the membership to the channel. Kirk said $5. You know, just do the $5 minimum. That way everybody has access to everything. So that's what we did. The link is I'll put it on the Facebook page and in the community for the YouTube if y'all are interested in it. But until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel. God bless. Be safe, and have a good night. And Kirk ended if he had anything he'd like to say.
Guys, be safe. Watch your kids. Believe your kids. I hope to see y'all Saturday night. And Serena, you know who you are. You know who I am. Don't be a stranger.
Good night, guys.
That's all I got to say. Good night.